Philip Ingram is also here, former senior military intelligence officer. We're looking out the window here. We kind of alter. I think we're going back into some summer again soon, aren't we?
Possibly,
just,
yeah.
I don't know if it's nice where you are.
I'm just drooling over boats. I'd love to have a boat and be sitting on it somewhere. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it'd be lovely.
I don't mind the bad weather on a boat.
Really?
Yeah, no, I've done lots of it.
Oh yeah, well that's because you're military, because you're hard. It's because you're hard. There we are. Anyway, as I say, with the home of common sense, whether you're listening on DAB+ radio or on your smart speaker, watching on YouTube or your connection device, it is lovely to have your company. Don't forget, if you miss anything of the show, you can go to my YouTube page. We've called it the Julia Hartley-Brewer Show to make it easy to find. It's on YouTube. Just put that in, hit subscribe, and you never will need to miss a thing. Coming up in this hour, we're going to be talking more about Keir Starmer and his recognition of a Palestinian state. It's been followed suit by, well, he followed Emmanuel Macron of France and now Mark Carney of Canada. I mean, these are not two people you necessarily want to be on the same side on in recognising the Palestinian state. At least Mark Carney put some conditions on Hamas, which the Prime Minister here totally failed to do in return for that recognition. You know, I don't know, things like democratic reform and releasing the hostages, not even mentioned by Keir Starmer. But he's facing questions today, not just from former hostages, including Emily Damari, a British-Israeli hostage, who's said that this decision is a immoral and shameful decision by the Prime Minister, but also some of Britain's top lawyers, some Supreme Court judges as well, who are now in the House of Lords. They've warned Keir Starmer that his pledge to recognise the state risks breaking international law because they say that a Palestinian state wouldn't meet the basic criteria for recognition as set out under an international treaty dating back to 1933. Plus, we're going to be talking about, well, trans children, because there are no trans children, but for a long time, thousands of children were referred to NHS gender clinics, but without any follow-up at all about, well, how well they had dealt with their treatment, their drug treatment, or whether or not they had decided not to transition, or how they'd coped with having their bodies mutilated by people claiming to be well-meaning. Well, now thousands of those children will have their long-term health and happiness monitored. It's the world's largest study of its kind, and it's going to investigate all key aspects of their health, their well-being, mental health, school performance, relationships, and underlying conditions such as ADHD and autism, which actually are very, very prevalent in those who claim they believe they are transgender. We're going to be talking about all of that coming up. Philip Ingram, once again, welcome to you. Let's return to the Palestinian recognition, because these top lawyers, and they really are, I mean, we're talking about former Supreme Court judges, lots of the 40 members of the House of Lords, but they do include 7 KCs. Lord Pannick, he very senior, he's represented the government many times, and many other senior figures. And they've written to the Prime Minister saying, well, no, sorry, they've written to Lord Hermer, the Attorney General, and he's the government's top legal advisor, the Prime Minister's top legal advisor, saying a Palestinian state wouldn't meet the criteria for recognition set out in the Montevideo Convention in a treaty signed in 1933. Now, this lays out 4 basic criteria for statehood. And they're kind of statements of the bleeding obvious, really. And the treaty says a state must possess a permanent population, which Palestine, as people think it exists, doesn't.
They're
refugees. They're refugees. So, you know,
is there because they're all refugees.
A defined territory. Well, that's not agreed. You've got the West Bank, you've got Gaza. They are claiming, both Hamas and the Fatah-run Palestinian
you define
Authority.
that in the same way that you define women.
Well, exactly. Well, they want Israel. They think that's their defined territory. Well, that's not going to happen. A government, again, you've got, and a government, by the way, with the capacity to enter into relations with other states. Well, we've got Palestinian Authority, unelected, well, elected 20 years ago, not a democratically elected government. You've got who, by the way, still, you know, happily rewards people for killing Jewish people. I mean, let's be honest. We've got Hamas, which is a prescribed terrorist organisation. This isn't a state. These aren't this isn't a state. There's nothing to recognise. You may as well recognise Narnia. Realistically, you know, okay, well, Aslan's the government. We'll recognise Narnia. I mean, or, you know, the Ice Queen, or whatever she was. This is a load of nonsense. This is, as everyone's been pointing out, political posturing and gesture politics.
It is, and the sad thing about it is it's giving into the disinformation that's coming out that is totally focused from an anti-Israeli perspective. It's giving into the disinformation that his backbenchers have believed, and now he's reinforcing that.
When you say disinformation, do you mean a lot of the claims that are put out as fact by the BBC and others?
And by others, yeah.
Propaganda. I mean, it is propaganda. And again, yet again, more claims, and again, written up as fact by news organisations today about a huge number of people shot dead or shot and seriously injured by the IDF when they were going to get food. Again, not a single bit of footage. And they'll say the health ministry and the hospitals have claimed, but they are all run by Hamas, a terrorist organisation.
And I've just on social media put that point to someone who said, "Give me any proof you've got," and they come back and said, "United Nations Human Rights Organisation." No, United Nations organisations in Gaza get their information from Hamas. And therefore, that is why we're getting so much disinformation that's put out. And Hamas know that they're winning in the information war.
But we've got all of this footage of, I mean, it's horrible footage of people, walking and to go and get food, of children sort of clamouring for food. We have the pictures of emaciated children. I'm sure there will be some. We know there is some hunger. Andrew Fox was on the show earlier this week, and he's been out there in Gaza, and he says, definitely there has been hunger. We're not denying that. Clearly, people are living you're out of your home. Your home's been bombed. You're having to move from different parts of the country. You're under the rule of Hamas and IDF. It's horrific. I've got every sympathy, particularly for the children. But when we've got claims of genocide, we've got claims of mass starvation, when we had claims of famine was imminent as early as January 2024, and we've got a population that's grown by 2% in that time. I mean, I'm just saying, I'm not entirely sure that those people who've been crying wolf haven't helped the Palestinian people there. But everyone man and his dog in Palestine has got a mobile phone. They've got a smartphone. We know that. We watch them. We can see them at any ceremony, any event. They're holding their films. They are filming constantly at every single event. And yet, we very rarely ever see Hamas soldiers with weapons, or wonder why not. And we have not seen, genuinely, not a single instance. We have not got a single bit of footage of IDF soldiers shooting people at one of these food distribution areas. Not a single bit of footage. And I have scoured the internet. I've asked an awful lot of people, where is the evidence? And yet we had actually Cabinet Minister on air yesterday on various media saying she had seen, we've seen the footage of the IDF, of the Israeli soldiers shooting people going, we've seen. Well, you haven't, because it doesn't exist.
It doesn't exist.
And if it did exist, do you not think it would be leading the BBC News at 6 o'clock every night?
In the same way that none of the casualties that are going into the hospitals, there are no hospitals that exist until they want to show pictures of women and children.
The IDF has destroyed all the hospitals, and yet they all still exist.
Exactly. You never see pictures of Hamas fighters going in. And as you say, you don't see pictures of Hamas fighters anywhere. The other thing we don't hear about are the Israeli casualties that Hamas are still continuing to have on a daily basis. Part of the problem here is Benjamin Netanyahu, and the way he is running things from an Israeli perspective, is doing it from a self-protection perspective, and is leaving himself wide open to all of these accusations, just reinforcing the weak position that he's in the Israeli government. And the Israelis have lost the information domain. Hamas have seen how they can win the overall conflict by getting them recognised.
And they have won.
And they have
won in that sense. They really have. The Palestinian people haven't, because Hamas don't represent the Palestinian people.
They don't.
We don't know, though, how many people in Gaza would actually still, if given an election, would vote for Hamas, because there were put it this way, there were an awful lot of civilians who, apparently innocent civilians, who were happily spitting on and cheering when the bloodied bodies of women who'd been raped and killed and then take their bodies taken into Gaza by Hamas on October the 7th. They didn't look horrified then, or was that just the people they happened to drive by?
Everyone seemed to be cheering at what was going on and seemed to be celebrating it. And the other thing that isn't hitting the mainstream press is the footage that's coming out of where Hamas capture local individuals who have got aid and got food not from the Hamas distribution centres, but have got it from elsewhere. And I've seen horrific videos of what happens to them. It's more than just shooting them in the knee. It is absolutely horrific what happens to these individuals, and they're tortured and then killed.
Yeah, and we've had enough evidence of that. We know that is happening.
Yeah.
And the families have spoken out as well.
Yes.
Those people protesting Hamas are very, very, very brave souls. They really, really are. But are they the minority? Are they the majority? Well, we don't know. But I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Does it matter if some of Britain's top lawyers have warned Starmer that recognising a Palestinian state could break international law? Because he and Lord Hermer, as Attorney General, they've always gone about international law. We had to give away the Chequers outsiders because of international law. We can't, we can't deport any immigrants who've come here illegally on boats because of international law. They care about international law all the time. Apparently, not in this case.
Yeah, well, it's only whenever they want to interpret it the way they want to. So, and this is the other thing.
They're despicable. They really are despicable.
They are, and this is the other thing about international law. And when people bring in genocide accusations and all the rest of it, international law isn't. If that, then you've broken the law.
Yeah,
it's open to interpretation.
Yeah, that's why lawyers are so rich.
There are so many grey areas in it, and therefore amateurs interpreting it get it wrong.
Yeah. Okay, we are talking about some of the top legal minds in the country. Yeah. Let's talk about just ridiculous situation we're in regarding the Manchester airport attack. And we have now got a conviction three convictions for one of the two brothers who were charged in relation to those assaults on one male and two female police officers and a member of the public at a Starbucks at Manchester Airport. Mohammed Fahir Amaz, he's the 20-year-old of the two brothers, has been found guilty of assaulting two female police officers, punching PC Lydia Ward in the face, breaking her nose, and also punching PC Ellie Cook. Also, the earlier assault of a member of the public at Starbucks, where he punched and then headbutted him. The way normal people do. Now, the jury was unable to reach a verdict on whether Amaz and his brother Mohammed Ahmad, who's 26-year-old, had also assaulted a male officer. This, of course, is PC Zachary Marsden, who has been very much the focus of this. Because the first footage we knew, or first evidence we knew anything about this case, was footage that was released, which is a tiny excerpt of the full video, which was of PC Marsden kicking and stamping on the head of Mohammed Fahir Amaz. Now, that case is going very likely to another trial. They're going to have a retrial. That means we would be in contempt of court if we had phone calls on it, if we discussed that aspect of the case. We're not allowed to. We can discuss where the verdict has been given, and we can discuss the fact that the PC Marsden he did face, the CPS looked into whether or not he would face charges for possible assault on Amaz. They did not bring charges, and it would have been a public outcry if they had. They still face an investigation by the IOPC, investigate police conduct. Could possibly lose his job. I mean, who knows? He has been backed by the chief of Greater Manchester Police. But the thing about this case, it almost wasn't brought. This case emerged in late July. We had a video of the brothers with their lawyer and talking about how there were victims and there were protests outside police stations. It was this could be we were basically talking about a George Floyd situation at one point, were we not? I mean, that's why he was being compared, George Floyd, in terms of he's an innocent victim, this man lying prone on the ground. When we saw the fuller video, an awful lot of people who'd defended these two men, or particularly the one man who's now being found guilty, they kind of look like chumps. And I include Yvette Coopers and the local MP Paul War, who was talking about this family traumatised. They're traumatised. They're appealing for calm and all of that. But we had a police officer, Mike Neville, on a bit earlier, and I had a lot of police officers on the day that emerged, and I spoke to people on and off air about this. A lot of people do still think, a lot of people, professionals, who know what it's like to be in that scenario where you've been in that the red mist of being under attack and fearing for your life, fearing for your female colleagues, that PC Marsden did go too far.
Well, this is where if you do go too far, you lose the moral high ground. As soon as you've lost the moral high ground, it undermines so many other aspects of what it is.
Do you understand why he did that?
I understand completely why he did.
I'm not bothered that he did. Now I know the full story.
No,
Put it that way.
and he had his hand on his gun. He was unsure as to what exactly the extent of injuries were.
He's seen two female officers punched to the ground.
And the other officers that were supporting him. So he wasn't sure how much support he would have left, and he had a violent offender on the ground that was still resisting arrest. He had to do something, and his choice was, to hit him hard to stop him from being a threat, or the only other way to stop someone from being a threat is you shoot them.
And he did have a weapon.
And you don't shoot to wound, you shoot to kill.
You pointed out earlier that actually in any other airport, in any other country,
he'd have been shot dead.
He would have been shot dead.
Yeah.
Simple as that.
It really is crazy, and therefore the way we government ministers and the Home Secretary in particular came out to criticise the police immediately
without knowing the full story.
Without knowing the full story, and came out quickly to do that. And now we've got a conviction. She hasn't come out to apologise and say, "I got it wrong."
Yeah, that is the key thing. Again, I mean, I was very much guided by the police officers I spoke to on and off air, because I've not been in that scenario. And I certainly think a member of the public, absolutely no issue. But we know that police officers, and you're a military man yourself, you are trained to not have the red mist going down, to stay in control. It did look like he was out of control. But I have to say, and a lot of that was brought up in the case in relation to his actions. I have to say, I'm more and more coming around to the view that that his actions were more justified than I had originally thought.
Oh, I
know how our audience feels about that. It's totally justified.
I felt that red mist in a riot situation where I was hit in the face. Luckily, I had a visor on.
You had a human reaction
with a brick, and then someone jumped through the window with a weapon in their hand. And that red mist, that individual was very lucky not to be shot dead.
I'm loving your face right now. I'm quite scared now, I've got to be honest. I mean, it's an extraordinary situation, isn't it? We were talking a little bit earlier about all these planes being grounded and cancelled and delayed. And I said my own family member was affected by that. Those are people travelling in and out of the country legally. We have a lot of people arriving illegally. We get more people came illegally on dinghies. The Border Force had to bring more Channel migrants to shore yesterday. We've got thousands and thousands of locals packing streets of Waterlooville, it's near Portsmouth, and they've been protesting after the Home Office secretly plotted, they say, to move asylum seekers into flats worth 250 grand. I've discovered this week that a local hotel in my area has been turned into an asylum hotel, and it's really interesting because I was talking with a neighbour about the increased crime, like attempted burglaries, phone thefts, bag thefts. I had my bags thrown last year, and the noticeable jump in crime has happened. I know this is a complete shock to everybody, since we had an asylum hotel very, very nearby, and I don't know if those two things are linked, but question marks about that. Meanwhile, legal immigration, the ones that the government has absolutely control over. Now, this largely happening under the Tory watch. People approve visas under the Tories, the Boris bounce on this. We've seen record population growth for the second year running. This time, more than 700,000 more people came into this country than left.
Wow.
And it's almost entirely the increase. It's not people aren't having babies. More is people coming to live in this country. This is unsustainable madness.
It's completely unsustainable madness.
All of it, all of it.
Looking at the illegal migration that's coming in, I do not understand why, when people come in, they have to be put up in a hotel, and they have to be moved into.
Well, okay,
into
what do you do with them?
You build camps.
I mean, I'm with you on that.
You put camps of porta cabins up. You look at the Bibi Stockholm that caused so much controversy. That ship that was put in the port, an exact same ship has been put into Glasgow port so that the crew from HMS Queen Elizabeth can live on it, while HMS Queen Elizabeth gets refund. It's good enough for our service personnel who put their lives on the line to protect this country, but it's not good enough for asylum seekers who have been living rough in France for a couple of years waiting to get across the Channel, and therefore we put them into somewhere that's comfortable, that's safe.
And we saw that extraordinary footage that Isabel Oakes shot, our international editor, got an amazing exclusive of just, I mean, outrageous, four-poster beds in a four-star hotel, meals on demand, cleaners, the works.
I'm sorry, it's obscene. And if the individuals think that their human rights are being affected by being put into safe accommodation where they're fed and are kept away from the centres of population elsewhere until their asylum applications are processed.
Yeah.
If they're processed and they get through, then they can go out into the system. Until then, we hold them somewhere in a secure facility.
That's going to have to be the only answer, because they think that the solution is getting them out of hotels and putting them in local residence. And as we've seen what's happened in Waterlooville, no, we don't want them anywhere near us and our families. It's that simple.